We have a team that has proven themselves so many times throughout the year in the boys, going up against Never Lucky, a team that has been so close to breaking through and being one of those top teams in North America. A very interesting squad that's come together that we've seen play just about every single composition. We've seen them innovate, and we've seen them change the meta, but the question is, are they going to be able to execute on the day while everything is on the line and the Mew Mew Kitty Cats already find themselves in a good position? My name is Rich. I'm joined by Zico, Supatees, and Van Rookie. Who do you guys have coming out on top in this one? Is it Never Lucky or the boys, Z?
Hashtag TB, the boys.
You voted in the chat, as we can see. Supatees, who do you think comes out here?
I'm with the boys, too. I think it's 3-1.
3-1? Okay. Ben, I'm going to ask you right now the same question, but then I'm going to ask you the follow-up of how do you think Never Lucky comes out on top, even if you do think the boys are going to win?
Well, I was actually going to explain that. So here's the thing. Never Lucky, they've been playing lots of different compositions, and it seems like their best composition is the Windwalker Death Knight, with Colo playing the Mistweaver to back them up. For the boys, it's the same thing, and I just feel like when you look at a head-to-head between these two teams, I'd have to give a slight edge in favor of the boys just for the experience Chun-Li has on Windwalker Monk over Zach. And I think that really will be the X factor in this matchup, but anything could happen. I know Valito is an excellent Death Knight. He's been playing for a really long time, a lot more experience than Smexen really has. And Colo, when you compare him with Gorecki, I mean, Colo is a phenomenal Mistweaver Monk, and he does have a lot of experience on that class. So I don't know. I really feel like if it goes down to mirrors the entire way, it's going to be a 3-2 series.
91% of you think that the boys are going to assert their dominance. Let's see if you're right.
All right, initiation by Never Lucky, but Chun-Li reverses it, using his Gliders Medallion to try and develop some momentum. Valito running that Lichborn Honor talent is going to have more access to frequent defense. Smexen as well running this so that they can trade during these leg sweep attempts. We see the grapple weapon strategy from Never Lucky as they kind of pioneered that to remove the weapon from the Death Knight and remove access to the defensive ability Death Strike, which then allows the Death Knight to heal. A lot of pressure underway here between both Death Knights at very low health. Wave the Crane activated on either side. Effectively a mirrored game so far.
Yep, definitely double leg sweep onto Gorecki and Chun-Li. Gorecki trinkets out on his way. The Crane wants to get some healing rolling as Smexen's low. Paralysis. Smexen could potentially fall. He's trying to kite away. Gets the Tiger's Lust from Chun-Li to get a little bit of distance, but running back into the fight, trying to get some counter pressure now onto Valito. Sparks flying. Anyone could fall. Gorecki has to keep Smexen up. He's falling low. Now Valito getting low as well. Finally, Smexen topped off, and both teams stabilize.
Yeah, mana looking better for Colo. He's also running Relentless. Chun-Li gets caught into a stun. Crowd control looks solid from Never Lucky in game number 1 as Chun-Li gets bursted barely. Touch of Karma to survive. Smexen now gets grapple weapon. He's going to use the Gliders Medallion to remove that effect and try and Death Strike himself back to full. Colo's experience on Mistweaver may be outdoing Gorecki's. Colo has way more reps on it than Gorecki. We normally see Gorecki on the Druid in this particular matchup. That could be the X factor for Never Lucky, having so much momentum in game number 1.
Yeah, Colo, I think he actually mismanaged his port there, unfortunately. Portaled away into the center of the map, so we'll have to make sure that these monks are getting their Transcendence on point, as it is such an important thing for avoiding crowd control, getting out of stuns. It's basically a get out of jail free card if you can't get away. Double stun attempt here from Never Lucky on a Gorecki and Smexen. Gorecki tops everybody off. Now Valito falling low. Life Cocoon exchanges from Colo to keep his team afloat. And it's all about the Mistweaver Monks making sure they're getting that Transcendence off before they get caught into a triple leg sweep. Nice little interrupt onto Gorecki's Soothing Mist, into a Paralysis. Smexen getting low. Can they take him down? Chun-Li flailing, trying to get some Vivify cast in, gets interrupted. Nice spear hand strike from Zach. Smexen with the anti-magic shell might be able to deflect. Now they're trying to reverse the pressure.
They grip Gorecki in, but the stun was too late. Now Gorecki has Wave the Crane, and Valito could be in trouble. Lichborn exchanges. It needs to be enough, but it may not be as Colo gets interrupted by Smexen. Smexen with a huge turnaround. Valito retreating away from the fight, but Touch of Death has been committed. Chun-Li is going to be doing devastating amounts of damage. Valito trying to hold on, but with that grapple weapon timing, Chun-Li hard carry. The boys take game number 1.
Now, we can already see that if this becomes a series of mirrors, that both teams have a real shot. It looks like it will go all the way to game 5, but how did this tide turn here on the blind pick? How were the boys able to secure game 1?
It's just Chun-Li. I think he really is the X factor in this matchup. He just provides that little bit of extra defense when they need it, that extra punch as well towards the end of there. And honestly, this looked a lot better than I thought it would for Never Lucky. At the end of this one, Zach did have his Touch of Death ready, and you can see Colo's mana bar is a lot better than Gorecki's, so It really is do or die on this final push here with that touch of death. And as soon as it comes up, it's actually available for Zac before it is for Chun-Li. But Chun-Li is a bit hesitant towards pulling the trigger here. In my opinion, you should just go for it. If it doesn't net them a kill, it will for sure create enough pressure and enough disruption for them to actually survive this setup and then eventually take the game on mana on the next one. So it just comes down to Chun-Li applying that pressure immediately when he can.
Yeah, I think when you look at the year as a whole too, look at what Zac's had to do, right? Zac started as a Holy Paladin healer, right? And we saw Colo playing a lot of different DPS. Over time, that changed. That changed a lot. And we've started to see Zac fall in this role more and more of playing the monk. Do you think that he has settled into that role enough to go toe-to-toe with Chun-Li?
I mean, he's a really good player, but I don't know if he's as good as Chun-Li. I feel like Chun-Li is one of these people who's specialized on the Windwalker Monk and been at the top of that game for a really long time. We saw him play last year in Legion, and I have to say, I think he was the best Windwalker Monk back then, and I still have been very impressed with him this year as well. It's just that little bit of extra experience, like Zico was saying, finding your win conditions, knowing really when to pull the trigger with your offensive cooldowns to generate pressure for your team, and just having way more reps. I definitely still have to give him an edge, although big credit to Zac, like you said, started off on the Holy Paladin and now on the Windwalker Monk. That game was really close.
Yeah, I think that Never Lucky has been the team where they have always known the right answer. They've always been able to look at a situation and say, this is the strategy, this is how we win. Execution has been their enemy at times. They haven't been able to actually pull off that perfect answer. We can see that with other teams as well, right? I think when we look even at our last series and you look at the Super Frogs, they knew the right answer. They knew how they won that situation. They probably even knew strategy, but pulling it off when you're actually in the arena, in a tournament setting, it's not going to be a given when you have the right answer. Never Lucky's been plagued by that throughout the year. Now, though, on a composition, playing a mirror that they've played all year long, and the question is, can they go toe-to-toe with some of the best? The advantage here maybe goes the way of Colo because he's been playing so much of the monk in the head-to-head. Let's talk about Veli, though, and Smexen. We've already talked about the other monks. We talked about the Mistweavers. We talked about the Windwalkers. Let's talk about our Death Knights. Smexen, I think, has really started to deliver this year as a whole.
Well, I mean, he wasn't necessarily the one that killed the enemy player of the team, but he was the one that stopped all the healing. So Colo had so much more mana. If he was just able to heal, he would have outdone Gurecki and outpaced Gurecki. So Smexen interrupts him with his pet, then positions to interrupt him with Mind Freeze and really shut down the advantage that Colo had established for his team throughout the earlier stages of the fight. And without Smexen doing that type of disruption, then I don't think Velita would have died, and Gurecki would have had no mana moving into the next swing. So most certainly it's a team effort, and you definitely have to attribute that also to Smexen now branching out onto his unholy Death Knights and performing with the best of them. I mean, in the past, Velita used to compete with Chun-Li. They used to be the Windwalker Death Knight, one of the Windwalker Death Knights that everyone would be talking about, a terror on the ladder. Now we see Chun-Li split off onto another team. Velita has to go head-to-head with him. Colo used to compete with Smexen and in Thugonomics as well in the past. So even though these teams are enemies, they used to be friends in the past, and it's interesting to see how their new rosters play out.
It is very important to note, because I think when you look at all of these players, though, as well, and you do take it a step further, I think this year they've found a roster that makes even more sense for them. So I think we see Chun-Li, Smexen, Colo, Velito, and we see them in better positions than when maybe they were playing against each other. And that's why it's so fantastic to get to watch how this is going to play out. Are the boys going to be able to take it again? You already heard from Zico. Chun-Li may be that X factor to look towards.
Touch of Death rolling on Smexen. Pre-life Cocoon denies a lot of that damage. Nicely done by Gurecki. Disarm attempt onto Smexen once again. And so far, early on, Never Lucky, they have most of the momentum. Paralysis now into Colo. Crowd control secured. Smexen's still low. They're trying to get counter pressure onto Velito, but the pressure from Never Lucky is unrelenting. Gurecki really struggling to top off his team. Finally, Way of the Crane gets pulled out. Smexen gets topped off, but Gurecki forced to retreat before using the last little bit of that very offensive cooldown.
Never Lucky again with an established lead. It was really the boys with a huge power play and shutdown for them to find victory in game number 1, and a similar situation is starting to develop here in game number 2. So as long as Colo can avoid the interrupts of Smexen, stabilize the team, and establish a mana lead, it could be devastating. Colo gets swapped to, but with Way of the Crane should be more than enough, and now Colo can counterattack. Realizing that, they use Ring of Peace to deny the connect. Colo then retreats away. Chun-Li in hot pursuit. Crackling Jade Lightning knocking Colo away from the fight. Very far out of line of sight. In the meantime, though, Never Lucky continue the assault towards Smexen. Life Cocoon, Lichborn. This is a cooldown overlap on the side of the boys, potentially an opening for Never Lucky, but Valido needs to survive to capitalize on that.
Yeah, and actually, there's been an adaptation from the boys. They went over to Horde from Alliance, so you're going to have the reduction from that Orc more consistently. Whereas for Never Lucky, they're going to have to spec into Relentless, so not going to have that trinket available.
Oh, Zach!
Zach getting low into the leg sweep, but it's going to be a short stun. He does have the Touch of Karma, a lot of defensive cooldown still to rotate through, but that does force out the Life Cocoon. Now Smexen under fire once again. Good pressure here from Zach and Valido. A lot of damage rolling. Gorecki gets interrupted. Triple leg sweep. Smexen could easily fall. Big death strike. Keeps himself alive, but Gorecki has work to do.
Mana is even. Cooldowns look similar on both sides. It's anyone's fight here, and surprisingly, Never Lucky are going toe-to-toe with one of the top point earners. If Never Lucky can manage to secure this series and advance to face the Mew Mew Kitty Cats, they could be going to the spring finals, but it's going to be a very difficult fight. Valido on the back foot, retreating away, and we've seen what happens when he has to retreat. It's not too good. Touch of Death committed by Zach, looking for a kill on Smexen. Lichborn denies that hit, or at least a significant portion of it for now. They switch their attention now over to Chun-Li, but Chun-Li, he can make that power play. He's got Touch of Death rolling. This is the same situation. Colo needs to avoid being interrupted and crowd controlled at all costs. Zach predicts the attack pre-Karmas. Valido able to survive with a pre-Lichborn. Preemptive moves by Never Lucky. They survive the power play. Now have an opportunity to overwhelm the boys.
Yeah, Smexen, a lot of reverse damage coming in from that Touch of Karma of Zach. Gorecki forced to trade out that Life Cocoon. Now Smexen's really vulnerable, but there's two targets for the boys in this matchup. Zach trading out his Karma and playing Relentless. He's not going to have a trinket to get out of the next stun. If he gets caught, there might be a huge attempt from the boys to actually take him down instead. If you look at mana, both of these Mistweaver monks are relatively even at this point in the game. They don't have a lot of time left. A double attempt here onto Never Lucky. Leg sweep on Zach as well as Colo. Colo manages to break free and escape, trying to look for some heals onto Valido to keep him topped off. Paralysis on Gorecki. Good crowd control from Never Lucky. Smexen dipping a little bit low. Both these Death Knights in trouble.
I mean, both of them could go down at any moment. Gorecki trinkets out of the triple leg sweep, but Valido is disarmed. Colo's got enough mana for Way of the Crane. This could be huge for a big push to kill Smexen. No Life Cocoon for 5 more seconds. Gorecki needs to stall this out as long as possible. Another second, but now caught in crowd control. How much longer can Smexen hold on? Colo's Way of the Crane almost netting them a kill. Gorecki moves in, lands a triple leg sweep. Smexen manages to survive the Way of the Crane push. Now Colo in crowd control. Valido falling behind. Zach gets knocked off the side. He's going to have a hard time getting back to the target, and it's all about uptime in this position when healers are completely out of mana. Who's going to fall first? Gorecki gets stunned up. Smexen gets bursted. Gladiator's Maledict gets Life Cocooned by Gorecki right with 1 second remaining. Potentially mana for Gorecki to use Way of the Crane. Doesn't look like it. Both monks totally tapped on mana. Death Knights, Smexen has the lead in terms of cooldowns with Lichborn available. Chun-Li, though, with a 9-second timer on Touch of Karma. Maybe a swap over there. We see a preemptive Life Cocoon. Colo does not have mana to heal, so they're just going to have to use cooldowns when they get them as frequently as possible. Double stun initiated by the boys, now reversed for the side of Never Lucky. Cooldowns exchanged by Smexen. This Lichborn needs to be enough. Will the Touch of Death of Zach crack through? This is a power play for Never Lucky. If they can't get a kill with it, Chun-Li is going to punch back hard.
Yeah, now Valido in a lot of trouble. Touch of Death rolling on him. We saw what happened in game number 1. Chun-Li was able to take him down. Colo, what is he going to do? 20 seconds left on Life Cocoon. Valido still rotting down low. He's trying to kite, but the grapple weapon comes in from Chun-Li, denying Valido a lot of that Death Strike healing. Still trying to just kite, create space, run away. Gorecki into the Asphyxiate Sun. Smexen getting low. Double leg sweep coming in. Valido does manage to break out of that with that Lichborn. Chun-Li now with a big Fists of Fury, but still Never Lucky. They're managing to hold on, and Colo, he has Life Cocoon back. So does Gorecki. He's going to use it on, trades it out onto Smexen to keep him alive. Chun-Li running out of cooldowns as well, and now Chun-Li is an incredibly vulnerable target.
Cooldowns are in favor of Never Lucky, at least on the monk side, but Valido isn't looking too good right now. How is he going to deal with this? Basically nothing left to heal him. He gets punted off the side. Colo, though, in line of sight to be able to recover. Colo needs to split up. If he gets double stunned, could be devastating. Rolls over, gets crowd control onto Gorecki, but Valido gets caught into a leg sweep. There's nothing left for Valido. They go after Smexen, but he's got Lichborn to deny the kill. Grapple weapon should be denying enough death strikes for Valido to ultimately go down. Holding on by a thread here, but they go for the kill on Chun-Li. Potential cross kill. Gorecki gets crowd controlled. Chun-Li able to use that diffuse magic. Gorecki ports back, connects a couple heals, but now Smexen was left behind. He is isolated. No Life Cocoon on 12 seconds. Caught into a leg sweep. 10 seconds on Kolos. Both Mistweavers just praying for a couple of extra seconds to get another life cocoon out to recover. Chun-Li falling behind. Grecky has to heal 2 members, whereas Kolo only needs to heal 1. Never Lucky have a huge lead.
Yeah, Chun-Li low. Could they take him down? He manages to port away. Zac in hot pursuit. Beautiful Ring of Peace denies. Chun-Li still out of line of sight, but this leaves Valido and Zac to just tee off on Smexen. And like you said, it is all about uptime in this situation. Just so much pressure for Never Lucky. Smexen rotting down low, holding on by a thread. Grecky trying to keep him alive. Chun-Li still vulnerable. He has to roll away, and that means he can't actually get any damage rolling. Things are falling apart for the boys.
Touch of Karma is going to be available in 4, 3, 2. Chun-Li, 1. He goes for the top. Both Touch of Death activated. Anyone could fall at any moment in this point, and Smexen is going to go down. This was a huge domination game for Never Lucky, having pressure on 2 members of the team throughout almost the entirety of the match. Quite unexpected to see this power level from Never Lucky.
I don't necessarily think it's that unexpected. I think that this is a team that has already proven that on this composition in particular, they do know how to execute, right? And Zico, what changed in this game from game number 1?
I think they went after Chun-Li a lot more in this match. I mean, you can see even here, before his Touch of Karma really comes back up, and even if you don't kill Chun-Li, whenever he runs away like this, you just get a situation where you can grapple weapons, Smexen, and you can have both your Windwalker and your DK actually go and just do devastating damage to the enemy DK. So I really like that they focused on Chun-Li more, made him run more and kite, and of course, we also saw that the mana management of both monks were pretty much identical this game. Valido did a really good job deflecting a lot of these attacks too, and eventually they managed to get Chun-Li to just run away, and they managed to find that big win condition with that Touch of Death of Zac and take Smexen down right there.
So you keep talking about how Chun-Li is potentially this X factor. Do you think that the reason that they do go for him is to try to force him in these scenarios where he has to run away so he can't have that playmaking potential?
Well, I just think that I don't think that that's the necessary kind of logic behind why they go for it, but I think that's just an added bonus to it. I think the main reason why they want to go for Chun-Li is because he's just a squishier target. You get him in a stun, you burst him down at the same time as you're cleaving everybody else down. Chun-Li is going to be in a situation where he might need to use his Touch of Karma or at least transcend away, whereas the DK, he's going to take that damage, then he's going to come out. His Death Strike is actually going to be benefited from the damage that he recently took. He's going to be empowered by that, and he's going to be able to sustain himself up, and that way the DK and the Windwalker are just going to be doing full damage the whole time. Whereas if you go on the Windwalker and he runs away, you get a 2-on-1 for a little bit, and that actually gives you that bit of extra pressure that you need.
All right, well, we got a mirror, and it's all tied up 1-1. You're not going to want to go anywhere. We're going to be jumping back into the series right after this. Folks, we're all tied up 1-1. The Mew Mew Kitty Cats are hanging out, waiting to see who they're going to play against. And right now, they are cheering for the boys because if Never Lucky can get that matchup to go head-to-head, those two teams can fight to go to the first tournament that's going to be played on the main stage this year. Let's see who's going to be able to take it. Is it going to be the boys or Never Lucky?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, possibly qualification on the line as Never Lucky look to advance in the upper bracket to face off against the Mew Mew Kitty Cats, who are so close in points to them with only 20 separating them going into this tournament. They are showing that they can go toe-to-toe even with the boys here in the upper bracket. Momentum consistently in their favor. Chun-Li and Smexen were not able to find any openings in that last game, and if Never Lucky keeps shutting them down, they may be able to take the whole series.
Definitely. Good pressure on Valido early on. Chun-Li already committing his Touch of Death. A lot of damage going to be rolling here. What is Cole going to do to respond? It's likely he just trades out the Life Cocoon. It's very effective healing to keep Valido alive. Grapple weapon attempt. Now one on the Smexen. Good pressure. He trinkets out, and he's going to be fine. Grecky trades out his Life Cocoon. So a fair exchange from both teams incredibly early on.
All right, let's see at the mana situation currently. Gorecki slightly behind. Zac gets swapped too. The pressure on 2 members appeared to be critical for Never Lucky's victory in the last game. Potentially we see that adaptation by the boys as well as they split their pressure between 2 targets. And I'm curious to see which Mistweaver ends up handling that split pressure better. Kolo rolls in. Looks like he wants to get something set up. Goes for a leg sweep, but only hits Gorecki. Interesting that Kolo is not running Way of the Crane. He's actually focusing on a completely an efficiency game, trying to play for a mana advantage. This is a significant difference between Gorecki and Kolo, and I'm almost wondering what is going to work out better. Obviously, the way the crane is going to allow Gurecki big pushes, but currently right now it's just struggling to deal with the consistent pressure of Valido and Zach.
Yeah, definitely. As Chun-Li and Smexen rot down low, Gurecki has some catch-up to do. Beautiful Mind Free secured by Valido. Colo has to play catch-up as well, and there's little nuances in this matchup. When you saw Colo only land a leg sweep on one member, that's because Chun-Li was using his Fists of Fury to parry the incoming stun. So these Windwalker monks can read that with their Turbo Fist, with their Fists of Fury. They can avoid those stuns entirely, and little things like that definitely add up huge in a mirror match.
Yep, avoiding stuns important in this matchup as Smexen dips low. Gurecki's in crowd control, holding out to connect a live cocoon just in the nick of time, but Colo still establishing a lead with this non-Way of the Crane build. And it looks like Gurecki is the one struggling. Now interrupted by Valido. Good crowd control, and I've really never seen the boys this much so on the back foot before.
Yeah, things are looking good here for Never Lucky, and there is just so much on the line for them. If they can stay in this upper bracket, if they can take down the boys, they are setting themselves up for a beautiful match as Smexen rots down low. Pure domination from Never Lucky in game number 3. You can tell just how bad they want it.
My goodness, yes, Never Lucky does want it. I mean, when you look at the, oh man, this actually just gets so crazy. If the boys do lose this, they go against the move, right? Is that how our bracket actually does shape up? Yeah. So that's already a very difficult. We talked about the double-edged sword right now when we watched the first matchup of the day, and you go, okay, now we're going to see the toughest team in NA drop down to lower. The boys going against the move bodes pretty well for Never Lucky if they can pull this off.
Whoever manages to stay in the top bracket out of these qualification bubble teams, they are going to have the best chance of qualifying for sure. I mean, let's not forget, Method Orange is there. Super Frogs are already there, so you don't want to go up against those. And if the boys joins that mix, man, you are looking at the entire top 3 of NA that you have to battle your way through. And like you said, the mover, they're already there.
Let's talk about this game, though, because Never Lucky, some interesting things. Why is Colo not running Way of the Crane?
I think a lot of it has to do with the map pick as well here. On a large map like this, it's easier for you to avoid a lot of these interrupts. You can see Colo standing quite far away, and that's going to allow him to just efficiently heal out with those soothing mists. Whereas for Gurecki, he's not going to have that same efficiency, and he's going to be forced to use that Way of the Crane a lot more often to actually push in. And since it doesn't seem like you actually get those kills with the Way of the Crane push, it just puts you behind in terms of mana. So I actually like this adaptation, at least on a large map from Colo. And then here, of course, this setup here was really nice onto Smexen. That Touch of Death is going to completely ignore that anti-magic shell and just take him down anyway.
All right, let's talk about how the rest of the series does look, because Never Lucky, back-to-back wins that just look, let's just say, outright impressive, especially when we talk about the fact that the boys are playing on a composition which does feel like they should be pretty well rehearsed on it. Never Lucky, really the team that brought out this composition in the first place and really introduced it to the meta in a lot of ways. I mean, made it very popular. Why are they picking up so much momentum here in these last 2 games?
It seems like they have a more solid game plan. I think with the way Colo's been playing it, it just seems like that little bit of an edge he has on the Mistweaver Monk seems to be paying off huge, and I just think their coordinated assaults and the way Colo pushes in or sits back, it just seems like they're more well-rehearsed with the setup in this particular mirror match, and things have been really going their way.
Super Tees, what do you think we see in this next game?
I think it's going to be another mirror, but potentially Gurecki changes his talents up a little bit. I mean, there are some significant differences in terms of the trinket options. So Relentless has been kind of a go-to for Colo to avoid crowd control, whereas Gurecki's always playing the Gladiator's Medallion, which limits his ability to get out of crowd control. But the Way of the Crane, as this series has played out, Colo was able to assess that it's not that valuable, whereas maybe running an extra grapple weapon and being able to take out the Death Knight's ability to use Death Strike is much more effective usage of Honor Talent, and you don't have to compromise your positioning nearly as much. So there's just a good assessment from Colo on the Mistweaver Monk, and we can only attribute that to his experience being greater on that specialization than that of Gurecki.
Let's just say that Never Lucky wins this one. Who do you think wins, the Mew Mew Kitty Cats or Never Lucky?
Well, I think Never Lucky.
I actually think it's Never Lucky too.
Yeah.
I do as well. Like, the thing is you look at Mew Mew Kitty Cats, and we've said this so many times, that matchup against the Super Frogs, even though it's the top team in North America, and you go, oh yeah, this is a team fighting for qualification. They're going up against the top team in North America. They're not going to win. We knew that the matchup between these two teams seemed to be in the favor of the Mew Mew Kitty Cats, and so did Super Frogs, right? They had to try to adapt. They had to try to do things on the fly. You look at this matchup between Never Lucky and the boys, and it's no knock on Never Lucky, but you think that the boys have this matchup. All of a sudden, Never Lucky starting to prove us wrong. And if they go up against the Mew Mew Kitty Cats, that beautiful bracket that we thought that they had that was going to allow them to walk straight to land, that goes out the window because Never Lucky then has the advantage, and Never Lucky might just cruise on through. Is this the first tournament that Never Lucky just gets to the grand final and wins? The thing is there's huge upset potential in the lower portion of the bracket, like you've already mentioned. You already have right now the number 1 seeded team going up against the number 3 seeded team. One of them is going to be sent home in an elimination series. And then you have the Move, who's going to be playing Spoiler as well. And the same way that we see Never Lucky just going bananas right now, the Move is going to be doing the same thing because they're trying to get qualification.
This map pick is telling me that we might see Gorecki on the rest of the grid.
You think so?
I think there's a decent chance that we might see Gorecki go back to his roots and go for that rest of the grid.
Druid pun's already starting.
It was the same one as yesterday. It wasn't even intentional. What am I supposed to say? Go back to his main?
He left his soul in the forest, and now he left his soul to reclaim it.
That was my favorite too.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yesterday, you know, we just get out of the show. We're all grabbing some food together. We're walking around, and Zico was like, "Yeah, did you hear that? Did you hear that pun?" Yes, I heard the pun. I heard the pun, Zico. I just remembered every single one from yesterday. It's about 6 puns back to back to back. But the thing is it's no joke if we do see Gorecki go back to the Druid. I think that this could be something that would be very strong for him.
Yeah, and like I kind of mentioned, there's one difference between these two teams, and that's the faction that they're playing. So Never Lucky, they're opting in to play Alliance. Now, what that basically allows them to do is Colo, he can play Relentless. Zach can play Relentless. That's going to be reducing paralysis as well as stuns on him, those types of crowd control. In addition, then they have their every man for themselves trinket they can use to actually break crowd control. Valito, on the other hand, he's playing Night Elf, so that gives him the capability to shadow meld incoming Maledict trinkets. And I think that added benefit of being able to shadow meld the Maledict trinkets definitely gives Never Lucky a slight edge, whereas Smexen, he does not have that option at all. If one Maledict lands, it gets dispelled. 2 more coming, flying at him. What is he really going to do about it? I mean, he can use the anti-magic shell, but if they're patient with it, try to wait for the anti-magic shell, that's when Never Lucky can really make those pushes with the Maledict trinket that could give them a favorable matchup.
Very important to note as we do head to Tolvaron Arena where it can be settled. So we don't see Gorecki going back to his roots. Why then Tolvaron Arena?
I guess that we're at least going to see Gorecki not play Way of the Crane and just try to stay back more and just play similarly to what we saw Colo do basically on Ashamane's Fall. Other than that, I mean, it's maybe just a comfort pick. They like the arena. I'm not going to go ahead and say that it favors them in any way compared to Never Lucky, since they are playing the exact same comp. But I think the main reason would be something like just the honor talent is going to be different. And it also took them a while to lock in. I'm going to go ahead and say that they were definitely considering to go back to the Druid.
I thought Colo was going to lock in Way of the Crane. I was going to be like, what is Colo up to? He starts with Way of the Crane, switches over, then Gorecki taking a book from Colo, or page from Colo. Colo switching back to the Way of the Crane, but that's not going to happen. Both of these monks going to be playing a very defensive build in this matchup.
Yep, this could be a bit of a longer fight, as Way of the Crane is one of the most expensive, I do believe it is the most expensive ability a Mistweaver can take. So the mana is going to be a lot more readily available on either side, and on Tolvaron they can set up for drinks as well. So the boys are playing it a lot slower here as they are on match point. Crowd control initiated by Never Lucky. Gorecki denying the push with that life cocoon, absorbing that huge hit from Zach entirely, as well as Chun-Li's touch of death has been almost entirely negated. We do see a bit of a rush down on Colo, trying to take him out, but a Ring of Peace, well placed, protects him. Colo fake cast the Mind Freeze, fake cast the Pet Interrupt. Good fake casting by Colo. We saw that cost him game number 1, but right there really outplaying Smexen.
Yeah, Colo's still under fire. He torpedoes into a wall. Not the best situation to be in. I don't think he has any mobility left. Colo's going to have to tank through a lot of this damage. Chun-Li has uptime. Smexen has uptime. What is Colo going to do? He does have his Transcendence, but he had to use a lot of mana. Surprisingly, Gorecki had to use even more in that exchange, so that's still a favorable trade for Never Lucky.
Well, as they go after Colo, Smexen and Chun-Li give Valido and Zac their backs, and they cannot parry any incoming attacks. Smexen gets grapple weapon. Gorecki gets crowd controlled. Solid play here from Never Lucky. Good initiation. Now Colo gets gripped into the fight again, opting to use that human everyman for himself ability to get out of the stun, reposition in center field, and get his team stabilized so they can get aggressive. Mana is slightly in favor of Never Lucky, which if you're the boys on match point, that is not too good for you. Life Cocoon exchanged here, an opening for Touch of Death in 30 seconds potentially from Chun-Li. Curious to see if he can make a play with that. It looks like they want to be attacking Colo. They're trying to risk everything on these healer swaps, but it's costing a lot of Gorecki's mana to do so, and if they can't take him down, that mana is not going to last forever.
Yeah, Colo with a beautiful leg sweep gets behind the pillar and is going to be completely fine. And it's difficult, like you said, Smexen and Chun-Li, they're getting good pressure on Colo, but every time they do that, they're giving their backs to Zac and Valido, and that's when they can really tee off, generate a lot of pressure, and that's why you see such a massive mana lead for Never Lucky. Are they really going to be able to do it? Can they beat the boys in a complete mirror match? You can tell how much they've practiced. They are prepared for this particular matchup, and they're playing it out well. Now Valido under fire, taking a little bit of pressure. Grapple weapon onto him, but Chun-Li gets caught into the stun with no trinket. This could be the touch of karma, and Gorecki falling further and further behind.
Turbo Fist allowing Chun-Li to protect himself and parry incoming attacks. Gorecki's mana is not looking very good right now. Colo's been dealing with this calm, cool, and collected despite being pressured by the boys throughout this fight, but ultimately getting interrupted. One interrupt could cost him the game. Maledict gets gripped back on the Chi Torpedo. Where is the Transcendence, Colo? You need to make a getaway here very soon. That shield has all but evaporated. Smexen getting counter-pressured. Could be a race here to the finish. Gorecki connecting a couple heals, costing even more mana. Colo gets stunned. He fortified Elixir right before all of that incoming crowd control, but then gets mind frozen. Smexen all over Colo. Good prediction in that attack. Connects a couple of soothing miss, but desperately needs to escape to safety. They've got the mana lead. Colo just has to keep it going a tad bit longer.
Yeah, where is his Transcendence? Colo needs to start creating some distance. He cannot afford to tank through this damage. Triple leg sweep coming in. Gorecki charges forward to try to take down Colo.
Oh, he's caught in the Ring of Peace trampoline!
He can't do anything! Beautiful setup there by Chun-Li. We are going to get a replay of that because when that is pulled off, it is a beautiful moment. Colo, there was not much he could have done.
The double ring, always going to be able to do it. The deadly Venn diagram. The boys going to be able to take this to Game 5, Zico.
Wow, that was... I mean, I would have loved to see Colo just transcend away from there, and he for sure had it off cooldown, but that's also another thing about this map. It's really hard to relocate your Transcendence and actually get it off, and here we're gonna see it. So his safeguard is already procced here, and he's still pretty low, and this is the move that Sid has been a big fan of. He's been wanting to see this move pulled off for so long. It's such an effective lockdown because it's essentially a stun that's not on diminishing returns, and here we're gonna see it. I think, let's see. I think Gorecki is the one who drops the first one, and then Chun-Li, there it is. No, Chun-Li does the first one, and Gorecki does the second one. Look at that, bouncing back and forth. And
yeah, it's not that fun for Colo.
Well, I mean, that's one of those things. I always talk about the Transcendence. If you mess up your Transcendence in a match like this, it is disaster. I mean, we could say Colo was in a difficult spot where he couldn't really lay it down, but he could have dropped one on that pillar, and that would have, at the very least, allowed him to just Transcendence away. Maybe Chun-Li puts his portal on top of him, but then he only has to deal with one DPS, and I think he could have easily survived there if he had done that.
All right, well, Colo's going to get bounced back and forth all the way to a Game 5. When we return, we're going to see, are the Mew Mew Kitty Cats going to go head-to-head with Never Lucky to figure out who goes to LAN? Zappy boy! I haven't seen him in so long. It's nice to see an old friend, but we're going to a Game 5, and we don't have any friends in the arena except for the other 2 people that are on your team, or the other 3 people that are on your team. They're your only friends, and you're trying to get all of the way through Game 5 now. It's been a day of Game 5s. It's only been 2 series, but both of them have made it here. And the question is, who is going to play against the Mew Mew Kitty Cats and be that gatekeeper? Be the one who gets to decide who makes it to the first LAN. We're currently seeing mirrors all the way through. Game 5, we expect to be the same.
Depends on the map, but most likely, I think we're going to see the same thing come out here. And yeah, Ruins of
Ruins of Lordaeron, as it is a cemetery, would be a fitting final resting place.
I don't disagree with you there. This is going to be the one that decides it, and as is fitting, it's going to be a mirror yet again. Never Lucky has really impressed. Let's talk about how they lost, because it was a pretty insane feat to pull off. Do you think that the boys are going to be able to close this one out, or do you think Never Lucky takes it?
Well, the boys just trying to find a new pressure point in this matchup, and that pressure point is Colo. We've seen him easily be able to sit back, keep his team alive, make offensive pushes, but now you can see that the boys, they're really trying to put it to Colo, making sure he's not messing up his defensive cooldown rotation. We really need to make sure he's using that Transcendence at the proper time, relaying it in proper positions, because if he can do that, I think he is a really difficult target for them to actually take down. Maybe we'll see the double Ring of Peace once again, but that's a hard maneuver to pull off.
Definitely not going to be an easy maneuver to pull off, but both of these teams have already done something that's quite difficult, and that is go toe-to-toe with each other. Two powerhouse teams in NA. Boys currently sit number 2 on the leaderboards. We're going to see them a little bit later on to close out this season, but Never Lucky wants to be up on the same stage with them. If they can close this out, they'll have their matchup.
This is going to be a capital SMORC game, I believe, as both healers are going to be pressured start to finish. Which healer will crack first? It's match point. Never Lucky, qualifications potentially on the line.
Yeah, Colo under fire. He's already used his Transcendence. You can look. Colo doesn't have any defense left. Gorecki getting low. He Transcendence away, trying to play it greedy. Finally, the Life Cocoon connects. Now Zach moving in, getting the leg sweep. Gorecki having it trinket out. Both of these Mistweaver monks have nothing left.
At this point on Runes of Lordaeron, if you're a healer facing down the barrel of a Death Knight Windwalker with nothing left in your pocket, Colo is better positioning. Gorecki gets isolated. He's getting annihilated. Never Lucky. Are they going to take out the boys in the upper bracket and face off against the Mew Mew Kitty Cats? Huge recovery. Gorecki out of nowhere, managing to restabilize, potentially a cross kill if Colo gets pressured. Colo's Transcendence basically nowhere, but Gorecki gets interrupted. Huge damage following suit. Ring of Peace protects Gorecki for now. That Ring of Peace misses from Zach. Gorecki now able to stabilize as a result. Colo is down at half health, and now suddenly he's in so much trouble. Interrupted for 1 more second. Life Cocoon connects, but multiple Gladiators Maledicts are absorbing the healing. Wave the Crane likely to be activated on both sides, which is going to boost the damage enormously. Colo manages to stabilize with his Wave of the Crane. Gorecki still has his, but he has no way to get out of a stun. The next stun can close it. Gorecki knows that. He pre-Life Cocoons, but they hold on to the stun, waiting for the shield to fade. Now going for a stun under the DPS to survive. Colo tries to escape, but in line of sight of Death Grip is unable to. Big mistake.
Yeah, big mistake coming in from Colo with that Transcendence. Can he get away? He has it off cooldown. What is he going to do? He's trying to get behind the pillar, caught into the stun. Do they have the damage to take him down? Colo holding on by a thread. Transcendence into the middle of the map. Ring of Peace throws him right back into the boys as they take him down.
Wait. Gorecki still doesn't have anything for 4 more seconds if they can stay on target. Valido desperately trying to get there and close it. Grips Gorecki back in. No mana left if they can land the interrupts. Gorecki fake casts the Mind Freeze. Ring of Peace gets him knocked into the wall. He's still low on health. Zach portals in, gets stunned. Gorecki connects 1 heal. Zach needs to land an interrupt, but he doesn't have it. There's no interrupts. Gorecki's going to stabilize. Valido is going to fall. And the boys keep it together all the way throughout. And now, if you are the Mew Mew Kitty Cats, you're pretty big smiles.
If you're the Mew Mew Kitty Cats, you're pretty confident that you have done a difficult task of making it out of these top 3 teams. It's not completely settled yet, but now all of a sudden that scenario of them having the easier bracket is going to be there. Let's talk about how this 5th game, though, does come to a close, because it's an intense one to actually close out the series. Everybody bouncing back and forth like volleyballs at a concert, like beach balls at a concert. Zico, why were the boys able to come out on top?
Well, because of the map being smaller and, being Runes of Lordaeron with just less line of sight, both monks decide to go for the Way of the Crane, and it turns into a big healer race here, essentially. Chun-Li manages to get a lot of uptime here on Colo, and the Transcendence location, of course, has been criticized a bit here by Colo, and, of course, he's not going to be able to actually get away because of that, and he's going to get interrupted by the Ring of Peace into that Spearhand strike, and then Chun-Li is going going to be able to close that one out. And Gorecki actually made a pretty significant error before that as well, but it did buy them enough time when he used his Way of the Crane. They didn't want to punch into it, because as soon as he comes out of the stun, he would be able to do a few Rising Sun kicks and get full HP. And then he actually comboed that with the Life Cocoon as well, and that bought his team a little bit of extra time to actually set that up. Had he though not been able to, had they not been able to kill Kolo there, Gorecki for sure would have looked like he was in big trouble. He didn't have anything there. That's why we also had Sid casting the 2v3 for a while there, because it was so close. Even though he was healthy, he didn't have any cooldowns, so he could definitely have gone down as well.
There were a few little moments where, you know, maybe a Ring of Peace is in a better location. Maybe we see a portal in a different location, and all of a sudden the entire game is turned on its head. Cannot emphasize how close that 5th game was, but let's take a look at the tournament where it does stand now, because Super Frogs versus Method Orange. You got the #1 team against the #3 team. Both of them have already qualified to the final, but to the spring final, that is. But whichever team gets through is going to be absolutely crucial to what the rest of the tournament looks like.